Hi, I'm Joyce. I'm from OC Habitat, and then over here with me is Plastic Me Not, who's Christina, who's also with OC Habitat.
Yes. Hello. Hello. Nice.
Hi, and I'm Viv Halston. I am head of marketing for Gizmogo.com.
Okay, so, just so that everyone who doesn't know, OC Habitat is a nonprofit conservation where we restore the habitat, monitor the habitats, and like, educate everyone about it. So yeah, okay. So today we're going to talk about ocean pollution and e-waste. So let's start it off by defining ocean pollution. Yeah, Christina, to you.
Yeah. So my name's Christina. I'm the Associate Director of Programs at OC Habitats. And then I also created this channel, Plastic Me Not, to just raise awareness about plastic pollution, plastic alternatives, zero waste options, and ways that we can prevent marine debris. So ocean pollution is essentially any type of pollution that makes its way to our waterways, eventually draining at the ocean through our watersheds. Oftentimes, this happens when we have big rain events, but it can also happen when we have overwatering, when people are using water outside that's going to get into those storm drains. And then we have wind kind of blowing a lot of our trash into those gutters. And then all of that eventually drains to the ocean, which I'm sure all of us have seen those signs on the sidewalk. Don't dump leads to ocean. That's exactly what they mean. Ocean pollution can consist of anything from, a lot of plastic, styrofoam, a lot of face masks today, but can also be different types of chemical contaminants that end up on our ground, that end up making their way there. And so I've definitely seen different types of e-waste items before when doing beach cleanups, things like little batteries or chargers and different things like that, electrical wires and stuff. So we'd love to know how Gizmogo is addressing ocean pollution concerns.
Yeah, absolutely. So, of all the e-waste that's produced, and again, like she said, that's really anything that would go into an electronic. It can be from a battery all the way up to a charging cord, a phone, a laptop, any of that. There's about 50 million tons of e-waste right now that the U.S. or that globally, excuse me, is being produced every year. And experts are estimating that that's going to double by 2050. And as it stands right now, there are only 25 states that actually have recycling laws in place related to e-waste. So, and even within the state of California, where there are actually e-waste recycling laws, there's actually a ton of stuff you're not able to just throw away theoretically. And again, that's very theoretical because obviously everyone's done it. We've all thrown away a charging cord without really thinking about where it ends up in the end. As it stands right now, of the 9 million tons that are thrown out in California alone, only 12% is currently recycled, and that those parts and pieces do end up typically in landfills. We don't have an incineration program in the US like they do in Europe. So typically that's where you start to see those, like what Christina said, those bits and pieces. They do tend to end up in landfills or end up on our beaches and in the water. And that's when the pollution comes not just from the item, it comes from the what the item is made out of. So that you're going to start to see the chemicals that made up the plastic or the rubber or the contacts or whatever start to leach into the soil, leach into the water. And so what Gizmogo does to help combat that is we buy back electronics from consumers. So if you've got that extra laptop or phone in your, junk drawer that you don't know what to do with, we will give you cash for that. And then we either responsibly recycle it or refurbish it to try to make sure that it does not end up in a landfill.
Amazing.
I have a question about that. How do you guys recycle the e-waste? If you don't mind.
Sure. So basically, when we receive a device, obviously we evaluate it to make sure that it matches the quote that we gave the customer. If we, if someone's pricing out a certain type of phone, they tell us what condition it's in. But if we do receive a device that's not salvageable in any way, we do try to salvage them as many times as possible. So with the goal of extending that product life cycle, right? We for the most part, you know, when we're getting a new phone, it's not because we need a new phone, it's because we want a new phone. So people then are willing to buy now refurbished devices because, again, you're not making massive leaps in technology nowadays with the phones. You're just getting a new phone with a new camera, things like that. So people are very willing to buy a well refurbished device. That being said, with the recycling within your phone, most people don't understand there are precious metals. There are also toxic chemicals like lead and cadmium and mercury, things that make up a battery. So what we would then do is basically break it down for parts. So if the screen is still great, if the battery is salvageable, but if it's not, we will pull out the precious metals so that those can go back into the supply chain so that we're preserving, again, our limited resources. And there's some healthy ways of getting rid of the lead and cadmium and mercury. Those are typically disposed of with a different company that is able to properly either dispose of them or, again, put them back into the supply chain so that they can be repurposed for the next device that we're all going to want.
So basically, it's a win-win for the environment and for us.
Yeah, right.
Okay. So on that end, how can we prevent ocean pollution and like recycle and dispose of our electronic waste?
Well,
or scrap?
I think it's important to be aware of how you can recycle it. So, it's not just Gizmogo. I was in Best Buy the other day, and when you walk in, you look over to the side by the door, they actually have an area to recycle batteries and cords and all sorts of things. So I think if people just were a little bit more conscientious and looked around, you'll see even restaurants like Chipotle, they have a recycling side and a trash side. So in terms of reducing pollution, I think, we live in a great time where we've come really far in our society. But it still drives me nuts that when I go to the gym, with all that single-use plastic, that there's not a recycling bin at every gym, and how that isn't a law drives me crazy. I used to teach yoga and group fitness, and I was just like, this is a huge missed opportunity. So maybe that's something you can jump on, Christina, and make that a thing. But in terms of devices, I think it's just important for people to try to live a less is more. Do you really need 4 phones? Do you really need 4 laptops? For someone like me, where I do digital marketing and I do a lot of work from home, yes, I do need a lot of devices to do my job. But at the same time, being proactive about making sure you get those devices out of your home when you can. That way, those precious metals go back into the system. We've all heard about the microchip shortages. You could actually be helping in a small way. And on top of that, again, looking for those little opportunities that, more companies are becoming more conscientious. So, you could theoretically be recycling your devices, but there's, especially here in California, there's a lot of opportunities for recycling that, at least I just moved here from DC about 6 months ago. These are not choices that are available on the East Coast. So even, as you move around the country, asking, where is the dump? How do I properly dispose of things? Taking the time to figure out if something is, there's even cosmetic brands that are coming out with refillable options. There's different little tiny ways that you can make sure that you're not contributing to the problem. And then obviously, being a little bit more proactive, showing up to something like the beach cleanup that we're planning to kind of help fix what we've already done. Because again, 50 million tons of e-waste, and that's just the e-waste. I'm sure Christina has some terrifying statistics on the other plastic waste that's out there.
Yeah, thank you for all that information. I know it's interesting you bring up, the option for us to be able to recycle these things here versus in other parts of the country. I know that specific to the e-waste and different household contaminants, there's some cities that don't recycle at all, whatsoever. And we have a lot of opportunity here in Orange County. I believe the OC Waste and Recycling website has information for folks if they want to see where their local drop-off center is. I reuse a giant peanut butter pretzel container and use that to fill for old batteries, just so I have it in my house, and then once it's full I can find wherever my nearest drop off is. But Yeah, I agree with everything that you're saying about all these little ways that people can just kind of reduce their impact. And if we're all doing that collectively, it has a huge, huge impact, which is really cool.
Yeah, and I think it's going to become a bigger issue because, I think post COVID, a lot of us who maybe did used to go into an office environment, did used to, work in an office, and now you're going to be working from home. So you are going to have more tech in your house. And also just from the standpoint, even if you're not a super environmentally person, think of it this way. If you have an old phone that you connected to everything, you also have to think of your data that's on there. So if you end up sending your phone or laptop to someplace like us, or I don't know how the others do it, but at least at Gizmogo, it's legally required that we wipe the device at least twice. We wipe it 7 times to make sure there's absolutely zero fragments of your data absolutely anywhere. Because if you think about it, like let's say you have a repair person come in the house, and you have that extra phone in a drawer. If they took that phone and got into it, think of all your information that suddenly just became available to not someone that you intended. So it actually, besides the environmental aspect, it really does behoove you from a data protection, like an identity protection thing, to make sure you don't have any devices in your house that you are not actively using. Because even just the ability to log on to your Wi-Fi could mean that then you're getting hacked. So, taking care of these devices, getting them out of your house really can just be something that needs to be the way we talk about good mental health. There's like good digital health practices, and this is going to be one of them. So you can get a double whammy. You can do well for the environment and you can do well for yourself and get a little money back from us. Like that always helps.
Oh yeah, what expensive. I did also want to share too, just because you brought up some of the other kind of shocking statistics that we have. Since COVID, there's been an estimate of about 1.6 billion just face masks as a type of ocean pollution, which is a type of litter we didn't really have before. I'm curious to see what we find during our beach cleanup at the end of the month, because we've also seen a huge increase with single-use plastic in general since COVID, right? For a lot of takeout food, restaurants, dining out, things that a lot of places normally wouldn't package that way, but they're doing ramekins and things like that for all of their condiments. So we've just seen like a 50% increase with a lot of that stuff too. So it'll be great that we'll be able to do that beach cleanup, kind of see what we have. I know we've also had quite a bit of rain the last month, so that it's definitely washing a lot of stuff down the watershed, ending at our beaches where, we're really seeing some unique items that I don't typically see when I'm doing summer beach cleanups. So that'll be really interesting. And I know you kind of briefly talked about this earlier, but I just wanted to ask more specifically if you had any idea about any e-waste policies that might be in the making or any strides towards that.
So right now, as it stands, there are no federal laws, period, about e-waste. So technically, as far as the federal government's concerned, this is not a problem, but I think we can all safely agree, regardless of what side of the political fence you're on, that they like to wait until something's like an actual, like legitimate, almost unfixable problem. So I think what is beautiful about this current generation that's coming through is we all had trouble getting, I mean, the older ones in the group will remember, it used to be hard to get a cab late at night, and now we have Uber and Lyft. So we fixed that in essence ourselves. Like we're fighting back against fast fashion. Now we have brands like the wool woven ones. You have a Rothy's. You have Rothy's, which you would love, are made out of recycled plastic. I'm sure you know. But we are making brands that fix things. So right now there are 25 states, including California, that have laws in place related to e-waste. So they if you look them up, they will tell you, you can't just throw out a battery or you can, but you're not supposed to. They're really trying to encourage people to put things where they belong so they can be disposed of properly. I think this is going to come down to awareness. And most people who live in these states, they're like, I mean, unless someone runs a PSA or someone looks it up, they're not even aware to look it up. So again, like talking to your friends about it when you see them getting ready to buy a new device, mentioning, hey, how are you going to get rid of that? Are you going to give it to one of the kids, or are you going to recycle it? Are you going to turn it into the kitchen phone? I don't know. But the point is, like, how are you handling it? Because the laws really aren't there. And if you are going to be getting rid of really anything in your house that is not, something small that's paper, and even then it should probably be composted. But my point being is, how are you getting rid of it? Because at the end of the day, like, I always imagine this, like, if I threw it out and I saw it on the beach, how would I feel about it if I knew it was mine? And so if you can extrapolate it like that, like, how embarrassed would you be if you were just walking down the beach with a friend and you're like, that was mine? And I think it's really easy for us to forget, especially living here in California. I live in LA. I've never seen trash like this before in my life. And I've lived all over the world. I was watching the news last night and they're talking about all the trash along the train lines. I mean, I've never seen that much trash outside, and this is supposed to be the environmental state. I was expecting moving here so much more. And so that's why I'm really glad to be participating in the beach cleanup at the end of the month, just because, again, I thought the laws here were more enforced on this, to be perfectly honest. And to get here and I'll be living here for 6 months and it's not, and so and I know, the police obviously have other concerns. There's lots of different reasons why these things don't get taken care of, but then it honestly falls on us as the citizens, if we care about this beautiful state that we live in and we want it to be, even more beautiful and taken care of for, future generations and kids, then we can't really wait on the laws, because they're not. And even if it did, like, that doesn't stop you from speeding. Like, just do the right thing because you want to, not because there's a law about it. And again, like, maybe that's something we all work on, saying, you should have to recycle a single-use plastic in a gym. You should have to, recycle your electronic devices. But that being said, it should be easier. There should be more places to do it. There should be a recycling bin next to every trash bin. Like, these are not hard things to do, and it would not be expensive. So yes, there are some laws, but again, out of the 9 million tons that Californians throw out in e-waste, only 12% of that is recycled. So we have a lot better job that we could all just be doing just in this state. And we are the world's 9th largest economy. So if we make the decision as California state citizens to change that, then I think we could actually start to have a real impact on the rest of the country. Because for those that don't know, building code laws in California impact building code laws in Florida, for those who didn't know. So, like, they use whatever California's rule is they just automatically use that. So when they had trouble with the toxic drywall back about 10 years ago, whatever California passed as the new law, other states just adopted that. So if you know that, then, like, what we do as a big state does swing other states. So if what you asked about the law, if there's not a law, we should just go make one.
Yeah. Power.
Petition for
Or like setting the standard. I think
really
all important information to know too, because that can be really empowering as consumers, like our choices and what we buy, how we buy them, how we get rid of them, how we recycle them, right? How we try to figure out ways to reduce our impact. Has a huge like ripple effect, right? And then, like you said earlier, if we're spreading that awareness with family and friends, we're just kind of increasing that awareness, which is huge and really powerful. Like, we can do a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, even since we're in the age of social media, we have plenty of things to share, whether on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok's now a big thing. It's just getting it out there.
Yeah, and I think it's just this is the generation of talking about it, right? I was yesterday, and an ad came on. It was a PSA, from obviously the federal government, that was specifically talking about directly addressing your friends and family to help with their mental health, and just asking, so this is the same thing. If you hear friends and family start to talk about upgrading tech, or every time the holidays come around and all of us tend to buy a lot of devices, there's absolutely no reason you can't be like, well, if you're going to get the kids a new laptop, what are you doing with the old one? Just bring it up. Just ask. Because maybe they didn't think about it, and again, all the previous points mentioned about, data security and the recycling issue, just ask. And maybe the laptop is fine and you want to buy it from them for $100, or they want to sell it to us, or, there's all these different things, but just facilitating the conversation makes people think about it. And that's really all we're going for here, because again, I grew up with Captain Planet. Anyone else from the 90s? No? Okay. And to this day, I am not capable of throwing out those little plastic rings that come around the soda can without cutting them.
Yeah.
I'm incapable, because I was raised on this generation of they showed us the pictures of the dolphins and the turtles and whatever. And I'm just but I've met tons of people since then, including my current spouse, who was like, what are you doing? And I was just like, dolphins. Save the dolphins. And again, that was this, for those that don't know, playing the home game, he was an environmental superhero in a cartoon in the 80s and 90s, for those of us old folks. And they would always give you pro tips on how to be more environmental in your everyday life. And I still use those tips, that besides the plastic rings, grouping together errands, driving to the furthest point away first and working your way back to the house, so you're not driving back and forth to reduce your, emissions. I still do that to this day, little things like that, to help reduce your impact. And again, recycling your electronics is just another small little thing you can do to make sure that, you're doing your part, at least within what's within your power to do. So, and that's all I think we're all three of us ladies suggesting, that we just take the extra time to figure out what that is and actually do it.
Absolutely. Did we want to take any questions?
That would be great. Yeah. Does anyone have any questions?
I know. I feel like it's almost like a Zoom where any question.
I know. We needed that Jeopardy music.
Yeah.
That's anxiety.
Okay, what is e-waste? Okay, so e-waste is literally anything electronic that is a tangible item that can be thrown out. So e-waste can be an old cell phone, it can be an old charging cord, an old batteries are a big one. Really anything that can plug in or be plugged in to an electronic device. And so anything from the outlet to the device is considered e-waste, if that makes sense. So anything that you can fill in there, boom boxes or headphones or.
A question on that. What about Christmas lights? I've seen a lot of Christmas light trash after the holidays.
I would say that still technically constitutes e-waste, because it is electronic, because technically, for example, some people would salvage within that the wiring. Because again, the reason we're having chip shortages and things like that is there is a limitation to the number of precious metals on this planet. So what is happening is all of us have these devices, and what we don't realize is that even something as small as an electrical cord, it has some kind of metal in it. And there's only so much of that. Now they have been finding ways to make it with plastic, but then again, now we're running into it's plastic. I don't know how other people are handling it, but for me, I had to stop wearing my Fitbit because it turns out that the band was made out of some weird plastic and causes a reaction. Mm-hmm. So I think, and I do think we're going to start to see more of that, because we're touching it too much. It's not real. Now, there are people making biodegradable plastics, like you were mentioning with the food waste. I saw something the other day where they made edible spoons that apparently can be stored and shipped. I don't know how we haven't gotten these. They're in India. We need to talk to someone, because this is LA. No one's going to stop with the takeout. Like, that's not going to happen. You would have riots in the streets if someone banned takeout. So only been here 6 months. There's a lot of food trucks. Good night. But yeah, no, e-waste is really anything electronic at all. So yeah, Christmas tree lights. So again, these are things to think about in the future. Like, maybe don't change the decorations every year. Maybe buy nicer ornaments, fewer ornaments. I don't want to tell people how to live their lives, but like, we went minimalist recently, and like, really, we didn't need most of what we had, and I'll be honest, guys, it's a lot easier to clean the house.
Yeah,
like, when you don't have a bunch of stuff, like when we stopped eating unhealthy, I didn't need half the stuff I had in my kitchen, all the little devices and things or whatever. When we started, stopped, like going into the office all the time, you stop needing 78 outfits just to get through the week. I very much enjoy my fashion, when I'm not, at work. But again, I still don't need as much of it. I use it. I love it. Learn how to repair things too. I think I'm the only person left who knows how to like stitch something back up. Anyone else? So like, I think, again, just reducing your footprint really comes down to taking good care of the stuff you have, having less of it, maybe buying better quality, waiting until you can buy that better quality instead of like getting into this American consumerist panic that you don't have the cool thing. Because I'm in marketing. I'll be the first one to tell you, it's our job to make you want those things. It's your job to be a little bit more judicious about what actually fits in your budget and what actually is needed in your lifestyle. And so instead of just running out and buying tons of devices, maybe look at a refurbished one, maybe look at repairing the one you have, taking better care of the one you have, and, just doing better next time around. And I think our kids will get it. We need a new Captain Planet so we can get them on board a little sooner. But
absolutely.
Any other questions? Might as well.
I know. Thank you for asking that.
I'm just kidding. Is it raining in OC County too?
It's like sprinkling where I am.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, while someone like types a question, maybe, let's talk about the beach cleanup that's coming up.
Oh yeah, let's throw that in there. Don't forget that part.
Yeah. So we have a beach cleanup coming up on Saturday, the 29th. So the last Saturday of the month. It will be at Balboa Pier in Newport Beach and will last about 2-ish hours. You guys can find more information. Well, I know on OC Habitat we have a link tree. I don't know, Gizmogo, do you guys, or where can they find it?
So if they go to the Gizmogo Instagram page, there's also a link tree, and that link will pop them over to a page where they can sign up. And it's just an email, just letting us know. That way we have a head count. We do ask that you sign up because it's my understanding, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that there's a permit based on how many people can be there. So we do kind of need a head count, but also because there'll be snacks. So I need head count.
Perfect.
Yep. So I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, and should folks, there will be some cleanup supplies provided?
Yeah. So,
Yes.
What are you guys bringing? I didn't bring my list out here with me.
I believe it's like a bucket and like the trash picker up thing.
Nice.
And then we'll be bringing some backup cloth face masks, and some hand sanitizer, and then obviously like drinks, snacks. So we'll keep it light, but definitely sign up. We want to see as many of you guys out there as we can, legally, permissibly. technically we cannot stop you from of your own accord going to any beach on any day and just picking up trash with a bucket and a trash grabber. So just thought I'd throw that out there.
Love
yeah.
that.
Yeah, my fiance does it while he walks the dog. So yeah,
nice.
no, he's on a mission. Like he's like just like every week, like, just on our street. Like,
yeah, anytime you see it, right? If you can safely pick up a few pieces, that also has such a ripple effect. It's preventing that trash from getting to the ocean. And I think, too, it has that ripple effect of other people seeing that happening. And then they're like, oh, I can do that, too. I've had people actually approach me being like, wow, I never thought about picking up trash after surfing, like walking back to my car, and I saw you do it, and now I'm going to do it. And I'm like, wonderful, like, great, like, yes, like spread that message, spread that awareness.
yeah. Well, our dog is 12 now, and so she can't walk at the same pace. So he's like, well, I might as well just make this a useful trip because we're going to be out here for a while. So. All right. Well, I don't see any other questions coming in. Did you have anything else you wanted to hit on?
I think you answered all of the questions.
Good.
Good.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for having us and partnering for the beach cleanup and informing us and educating us all about e-waste and, you know, what Gizmogo is doing, especially just like being able to reuse all the different, you know, supplies and adding that. I think that's really incredible. And I love that you all are doing that and hope there's more companies that do that for different industries.
Perfect. I agree. Well, thanks, guys. It was wonderful to be hosted by you, and I guess we'll see you on the 29th.
Awesome. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. And thanks for tuning in.